What to do about rundown courts. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
No cap, let it fizz out. No matter what, we gon' get back. Stay hungry till we pig out. Celebrate till we kick that. Hey, this is our house.
Last week we talked about why I prefer outdoor courts. But one of the negative things I said about playing outdoors is that oftentimes outdoor public courts are run down. They can often have different problems that make them very hard to play on, if sometimes unplayable altogether. So I thought today we would talk about what to do about those rundown courts. Now the obvious answer would be, why don't you just go play somewhere else on a different, better court? But what if you can't, or what if you just don't want to? Like, what if you want to establish a certain court as your home go-to court? And yet, what are you going to do if it's worn out, run down, if it needs repairs? What do you do then? Let's talk about how to show love to your local court. First of all, something to keep in mind that I never really thought about when I was a kid or even a teenager is that whenever you see a basketball court, a public court, somebody had to pay the very expensive price just to have that court built in the first place. Ultimately, that cost usually comes from taxpayers, which, if you're not one yet, you will be one day. So keep that in mind the next time you see a court. It's expensive to build, and that money is going to come from you one day. But somebody has to organize the project of building a court. So the three most common basketball courts that I've seen throughout my career are that of public basketball courts on a public park, or public school basketball, playgrounds, or maybe courts that are on the property of a church, either or on, like, built by the church on their property, or even maybe just in their parking lot. Either way, whoever built those courts are responsible for maintaining and upkeeping those courts. But the problem is, oftentimes those courts are not upkept, they're not maintained properly for whatever reason it may be. Usually because you have to keep in mind that not only does it cost a lot of money up front to build a court, but also it costs money in the long run over time, year after year, to upkeep and maintain those courts. And a lot of times, wherever that court is located, whoever built it may not have the funds to continually, year after year, maintain that court. They may not have the money, they may not have the staff, they may not have the resources to properly take care of that court. And in my opinion, there are a few things that you need in order to use that court on a daily, weekly, hourly, use it hours every week. As a serious player, there's things that you need in order to be able to use that court. So for one, you need a good surface of a court, right? Meaning, if there's cracks in whatever the surface of the court there may be, that's okay as long as the cracks are even. If they're uneven, now you're creating problems. Also, if there are patches or holes missing in the surface of the court, you have problems. There could be graffiti on the court that doesn't affect your play on the court, but it can be unsightly and you may not want to have to look at it, but at least it doesn't affect the way you play. But more importantly are the lines on the court. You need lines as a serious player. Casual players may not need those lines, but us as serious players out here, hours every week, we need lines. So if the lines are faded away or there's no lines at all, that is a need that you must have in order to be a serious basketball player out at a public facility. And then you have the basket itself, you have the stanchion, you have the backboard, you have the rim. All of that stuff has to be straight, it has to be tight. It can't be loose, bent, or broken in any way. And then finally, in my opinion, you need to have a net. A net is a must. It is a need to have. Casual players may not need it. Us serious players out here, hours every week, we definitely do need a net. So if you come out to the court and you have those kinds of problems or worse, the question is, what and how do you handle that? What do you do? How do you handle it? So let's talk about that. So the gist of this video is that whoever built the court is theoretically responsible for upkeeping it and maintaining it. But in the very common case where the court does not stay maintained and it does get wear and tear on it and it does kind of start to fall apart, the onus then becomes on you to take care of the court to the best of your ability. Now, of course, you shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be your responsibility. It's not fair that you have to take care of the court. But keep in mind, whoever built the court is usually not the ones using the court. You're the one using the court. You're supposed to be the serious basketball player who's using this court on a daily, weekly basis, hours every week. Therefore, by default, any problems that take place out here in terms of conditions of the court automatically become your problem. And some stuff you can fix, some stuff you can't take care of. It's out of your ability to do so, but the stuff that you can take care of, it's the stuff that you should address and should do your best to try to fix, because it's within your control to do so. And that may not be much. It may be just like lines or graffiti on the court. Like, you can get paint. You can paint over graffiti. You can paint lines on the court if they're faded or if there aren't any lines. And the most common problem that I see out here is that the baskets may not have a net on them. That's the most common issue I see at public courts. Because of that, whenever I come to the court, I have a nylon net in my backpack at all times in case that happens. Not having lines on the court or not having a net on the rim, those are fairly easy problems that you can take care of yourself, and if you can take care of it, you should. But what about more serious problems like holes in the concrete or bent or broken backboard stanchions, rims, that kind of stuff? Well, obviously that stuff is beyond you, right? It's not fair that you should have to do the lines on the court or the net on the rim, but it's definitely not fair that you should have to try to deal with holes in the court or a broken rim, stanchion, backboard, rim, that kind of stuff. You probably don't have the resources or the skills or abilities to be able to fix that stuff, nor should you be expected to do so. That's when you're gonna have to get in touch with the people who are responsible or supposed to be responsible for taking care of the court. But just keep in mind that when you do contact them, it's probably not going to get done, or at least not as quickly as you would like. So what do you do in that case if the people who are responsible for taking care of the court just aren't doing it and it's a major problem? Well, then that begs the question of, like, how much do you care? Do you really care about this? Do you really want to revitalize this court and take care of it? Because it may get to a point where, in order to fix major problems on your court, you may have to figure out how to do some kind of fundraising in order to help pay for the repairs to the court. Again, you shouldn't have to. That's beyond you. You shouldn't have to do that. It's not fair for you to have to do that. It just comes down to, how much do you care? How much do you want it? How serious are you? And you may say that I'm going over the top by saying you may have to fundraise in order to be able to help pay for the repairs to your local court. But the reason I say that is because I'm nobody special, but at 13 years old, on the side of my house, in my side yard that used to be grass, I figured out and I built a half-court basketball court on the side of my house at 13. I dug up the grass, I leveled the ground, I poured the concrete for the court, I poured the concrete for the concrete stanchion, I built the wooden backboard, I painted everything, I figured out how to do it, and I took a side yard of my house and turned it into a half-court basketball court. And this was in the 90s, before the internet, way before YouTube. And I'm nobody special, and if I can figure out how to do all that back then, you guys can definitely figure out nowadays how to do minor repairs to your local court. Or if you have to go as far as to figure out how to raise funds to get major repairs done, you can figure that out as well. And before you say, well, that's too much effort, you know, that's going too far, I'm not willing to put in that much time and effort into just being able to play at my local court, I'll figure something else out. Before you think or say that, let me tell you that when I built that court on the side of my house, it changed, improved, and maybe even saved my life. That court was a life changer at the very least. Not only was it satisfying to be able to build that court with my own hands, but also it brought me closer and gave me access to basketball in a way that I had never had before, and it was life-changing. If not for that court, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. So before you think to yourself, trying to revitalize the court is too big for me, it's beyond me, I can't do it, it's outside of my control. Before you do that, really think about how much this means to you. So thank you guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, if you think it's going to help you be able to fix some of the problems at some of your local courts, that's great. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Everybody, please subscribe to the channel. The best thing you can do to support this small, obscure channel is to subscribe and spread the word about the channel and get everybody else you know to subscribe as well. And if you do, make sure that you know that I'm aware that this is a small channel, it's an obscure channel, and it's mostly just a talking head channel, at least to this point, and you have to be a real serious hardcore player to learn and enjoy this channel. So if you do subscribe, I genuinely do appreciate it. Also, make sure you like, comment, hit that notification bell. You hit that bell, you're notified of every video, every single time it's released on this channel. And thank you guys again. I'll see you guys next week.
We gon' support it in case you forgot. Planting the flag like we harvest the crop. We know they sleep while they lay